You only distract yourself like that, so cleverly set in your own ways, worrying about everyone but yourself. If you keep that up now as a kid, you'll be old before your time. You're like a drawn sword on the battlefield, one with countless nicks soaked in blood and rusting, with a lethal crack in it, a sword that's begun to break. You idiot, that's the problem with kids. Did you get so caught up in the moment, you didn't think about the consequences, and you plucked all your leaves? Chitch's relationship with Guts reflected the progression of his mentality towards relationships throughout the story. Her leaves represented his sword, and the source of power behind those leaves, Popo, represented his motivations. The meaning of Popo is abstract, referring both to the warmth of the sun and a warmth that can only be described by the feeling itself. The warmth of connection. Chitch's bittersweet feelings towards Popo reflected Guts' feelings towards forging relationships before meeting the hawk. For him, the warmth of connection was always followed by the cold of being betrayed and alone. He craved that warmth, that connection, yet resented it for always being followed by loneliness. Chitch liked Popo, but also not like, because when Popo come, quiet, dark Shinshin come later. When Guts saved Chitch by eating the rat that was about to eat her leaves, he didn't do it to save her, he did it to gain his strength back. But when she cautiously approached him, he was kind to her, something she wasn't used to. So she decided to repay him, granting his request for water using the power of one of her leaves. When the Hawk saved Guts by adopting him into their ranks and giving him a purpose, Griffith wasn't doing it for him, he was doing it to gain Guts as a possession, to increase the Hawk's strength. But when Guts was cautious about connecting with his new comrades, they were kind to him, something he wasn't used to. So he decided to repay them, granting their request for his sword. After using one of her leaves to give Guts some water, Chitch used her Popo to warm him. Popo fun by itself, but Popo with someone else, more Popo, so strange. In befriending Guts, Chitch's attitude towards Popo had changed. Instead of seeing it as a light preceding an inevitable darkness, she started to see it as a consistent warmth she could share with Guts. When Guts was adopted into the band of the Hawk and brandished his sword for their sake, his attitude towards relationships changed. Instead of seeing them as a light preceding an inevitable darkness, he started to see them as a consistent warmth he could always return to, a campfire of dreams. When Chitch saw Guts' pain, she empathized with him. Looks painful, looks really painful. She made his pain fade using the power of her leaves. She did it instinctually. Healing was all she knew, and she was using it for the one that had made her feel a new kind of warmth. But in the process of plucking her leaves, she was sacrificing her energy source without thinking about it. When the eclipse occurred, the band of the Hawk was brutally annihilated in front of Guts. His war of revenge was not for the things taken from him, but for the dreams taken from his comrades. Their collective pain was the coal that kept the flame in his heart burning. He went on his war instinctually. Brandishing his sword was all he knew, and he was using it for the ones that had given him warmth. But in the process, he was sacrificing his mental and physical health without thinking about it. After Chitch plucked her first few leaves to heal the swordsman, Guts promised to take her to a field of flowers where she'd never have to be alone again, just like Puck had described a safe haven for Guts and Casca in Elfheim, and Skull Knight had described the Elf King who could help Casca regain her mind. But in the excitement of the promise Guts had made and the warmth she felt, Chitch plucked all of her leaves to heal the swordsman. She was left as a husk of her former self, but Guts took her anyway, bringing her to the field of flowers. Picking her leaves rapidly like this mirrored Guts' new fighting tactic to protect his friends, the Berserker armor. To help his friends, he had to sacrifice even more of his mental and physical health than ever before, but his friends, especially Shiarki, carried him to the land of flowers anyway, to Elfheim. As Guts laid Chitch's husk on the hill, her words echoed through his mind. "We'll find Chitch, wonder if they will." When Guts got to Elfheim, he found himself without a purpose, and we're left with the question, will Guts return to his solitary war, or will his friends save him? This has been Evan. Thank you for watching. Huge thank you to Evenstar from Twitter. She colored the manga panel I used for the thumbnail, and you should all follow her. I'll leave a link to her Twitter in the description.